13 years after the first Avatar and 5 years after starting production on this one, how do you feel about what you're now sharing with the world, Jim? Are you satisfied with it?
Yeah, I was satisfied before we put it out, but that doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to be interested. You never know. I mean, it's just the nature of our business that you never really know until you put something out there in the zeitgeist if people are going to respond. But it seems to be the right film at the right time, and I don't know if that's that sense of childlike wonder that it can engender in an audience, or maybe it's the emotional processing that they go through when they watch it. Almost everybody that sees it tells me that they cry or they tear up at some point. So I think it's working on multiple levels. So that's very satisfying. I mean, I'm just sort of reeling from the fact that I'm unemployed for the first time in 5 years.
Wait, let's talk about that for a minute. You know, you've obviously had an extraordinary history of successes, but as you say, nobody knows. Were you nervous when finally you had to share this with the world?
Yeah, very. I think any filmmaker that says they're not nervous before their film drops is lying or in denial. Yeah, of course you're nervous. The zeitgeist changes, people's tastes change. We're in a coming out of a COVID era, but we're still not at full strength in the theatrical community. We're only running at about maybe 65 to 75% of what we used to be. So we're trying to build that back. So there were a lot of variables, a lot of factors that made it quite daunting.
You say this Avatar is more emotional than the first one, and part of that is that you have given Sully and Neytiri a sprawling family of children. Why'd you decide to go that route?
Well, I think it's a couple things. I mean, one, they say write what you know, and as a family man, as a father of 5, this is something that I'd never really dealt with, that I wanted to deal with. I also wanted something that would have a universal appeal for people in any culture or language or religion around the world, because the Avatar audience is a global audience, which we're seeing again on this release. And I wanted the characters to have stakes, like real stakes. I wanted to deal with as much as the beauty and wonder on the one hand. I also wanted to deal with something deeper, which is like grief and loss and how we process these deep bonds between each other.
One of the ways that you show that emotion is through a filmmaking technique called performance capture. And let's take a look at some of that. It's fascinating.
You are very hard on them.
I'm their father. It's my job.
What is this, Tonowari? What is this?
I'll be nice once, then I won't.
But I know one thing. This family is our fortress.
How much harder is that, Jim, than straight CGI, computer-generated imagery? And is it, this performance capture, is it worth all of the extra time and expense?
Well, that's really the big question. I mean, I can talk for hours about how we do it, but we rarely talk about why we do it. It's a new form of cinema. It's a form of cinema that doesn't use a camera. It doesn't use an optical camera where there's light going through a lens. We have virtual light. We have virtual lenses. It's all done virtually, which is interesting. One of the big upsides of it is that I take all of my cinematography ideas and I postpone them into a kind of a post-production. So what I'm doing with the actors is not photography. It's not cinematography. We're not doing dolly shots and crane shots and all that. I'm just working with the actors. It's a very pure art form. It's almost like a theatrical, like a rehearsal for a stage play. So as a director, I'm not distracted by all that other stuff. I'm just focusing on character. So I quite like it. I'm not sure that it's necessarily justified. If you could film something with actors, by all means film it. But I can't create these characters any other way. I can't create this world any other way. And there's something about that dreamlike experience that people are having where they're dreaming with their eyes wide open and it looks completely real, but it can't possibly be, that I think is a big part of the appeal of these films.
Well, last spring, we talked about your creative process and your book, Tech Noir, where you describe the tug for you between art and technology. Let's take a look back at that. You know, as I looked at the pictures, your drawings, your art in this book, Tech Noir, there's some that are beautiful, there's some that are deeply disturbing. Let me ask you a personal question. How is it to have those images rumbling around inside your head?
Well, I think of my dreams, my actual, kind of working subconscious in the middle of the night as my own private streaming channel. And sometimes it randomly selects for horror. Sometimes it randomly selects for beauty. Sometimes it randomly selects for beautiful utopian future or a highly dystopian, future. And I never know what I'm going to get. It's like somebody's randomly turning the knob. So after 67 years of living in that streaming service from the subconscious, I'm pretty used to it. And I actually think of it as my wellspring, if you will, for creativity.
We have one of the classic scenes from The Terminator. Let's play it and we'll talk on the other side.
I'm a friend of Sarah Connor. I was told that she's here. Could I see her, please?
No, can't see her. She's making a statement.
Where is she?
Look, it may take a while. You want to wait? There's a bench over there.
I'll be back.
Still a classic 40 years later. Jim, you say that you don't get thrown off by the studio. Is it true that the studio, in this case, wanted somebody other than Arnold Schwarzenegger to play the Terminator?
Very early on, a highly placed person at one of the two studios that funded that film had a brilliant idea, called me up and said, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "Well, no, I'm not." He said, "Are you sitting down?" O.J. Simpson for the Terminator. I said, I actually think that's a bad idea. I actually didn't go anywhere. But I think it's historically interesting.
I want to show an iconic clip.
I'm the king of the world!
You won the Oscar for Best Director for Titanic, and in your acceptance speech, you quoted your own movie, ending your speech with the line, "I'm the king of the world."
Okay, we went there. All right.
So a couple of questions. I mean, first of all, we should point out, you tied the record that had been set by Ben-Hur, I think back in 1960, 11 Oscars won. Peter Jackson's final movie, Lord of the Ring, has tied it, but that's the record, 11 Oscars at one time.
Yeah.
That's the good news. The bad news, how bad was the backlash in Hollywood, the feeling that Jim Cameron was riding a little too high at that point?
Yeah, maybe. I took a lot of heat for the line, and I think the egregious sin there was one of what was perceived as, arrogance or the conquering, a sense of conquest, which was not what was in my head. I was trying to express the joy and excitement that I was feeling in terms of that movie. And the most joyful moment for the character, for Leonardo DiCaprio's character, was when he was free and at the bow of the ship and all that sort of thing. But what I learned is you don't quote your own movie to the Academy if you win. Because it's cringeworthy. It makes the assumption that you didn't win by a narrow margin, but that every single person sitting in the audience on that night at the Kodak Theater saw and loved Titanic. And we'll never know how much we won by, but it might not have been a landslide at all. So, there was definitely, I took flack for 25 years after that. But you live and you learn. I think what was interpreted as kind of arrogance or a big F you, I told you so, wasn't what was in my head at all. But you do have to be careful what you say in your acceptance speech. Me and Sally Fields, we have a little self-help group together on this.
Your latest work is a documentary out this year called Nuclear Now, in which you argue that the nuclear energy and the spread of nuclear energy is the answer to the threat of climate change. Here's a clip.
We need nuclear energy to address climate change. And nuclear energy is one of the safest forms of energy that we have.
On Capitol Hill, do they care about that?
There is growing bipartisan support for advanced nuclear, more so than there has been for the traditional technologies. But there's a large audience that we haven't reached yet.
You say that fear of nuclear energy is a fraud that has been perpetrated on us with the help of big oil.
Well, not only big oil. The oil companies, we trace it back to the Rockefeller Foundation in the 1950s. In 1956, they released a report, very important report, that claimed, because their scientists in the foundation claimed, that any amount of radioactivity was dangerous to the human body, which is not true.
But Oliver, there are, I think you'd agree, real concerns. Radioactive waste, nuclear waste, can be dangerous for 1,000 years.
Well, that's the point. We have to deal with each one. You have to re-examine your beliefs. Radioactivity is all around us. It's in this room now.
No, I'm not talking about radioactive. I'm talking about nuclear fuel, nuclear waste, the residue from nuclear
radioactivity
plants.
was a big roadblock. That was everywhere, and people didn't realize that our bodies are built to handle radioactivity. This Earth is bathed in it. The sun, cosmic
But you would
rays.
distinguish between the radioactivity in the environment and the nuclear waste that comes out of a nuclear power plant.
Nuclear waste is actually a point in favor of nuclear energy, you see, because look at all the other waste that we have in the universe. We have waste from oil, from coal, from fossil fuels, from gas, methane. That's what's poisoning the atmosphere. This is what's heating up the global temperature.
I completely
You understand? In comparison to that,
I'm a believer in climate change and in global warming. I think it's a huge problem, but you can't dismiss the threat of nuclear waste. And the fact is, after decades of, if I may, after decades of debate, we still have not found a permanent disposal facility in the United States. Nobody wants it.
nuclear energy has been dealt with for 70 years now, 60 years. It's been dealt with safely with very little accidents and the lowest accident rate of all the energies that we have. And we have not been grateful for it. On the contrary, we've been critical of it because of some minor accident that happened in America at 3 Mile Island, which was nothing. Nobody was hurt at all in that accident. It was a meltdown and there was a containment structure. So it was all built up.
For all the controversies, you are a hell of a filmmaker. You've won 3 Oscars, including one as Best Director in 1986 for Platoon. Here you are.
Oh, man. Is that what I think it is?
All right, 236, welcome to the knob. Follow me.
You quit Yale in 1967 while a lot of us were clutching our student deferments to volunteer for combat duty in Vietnam. I have 2 questions. 1, why did you do that? And 2, how did it change you?
Does that tell you something about me? Is that I don't necessarily go with the majority. I don't necessarily follow the conventional way. I felt strongly about my country. I loved America, and I still do, despite our policy of Mr. Biden in the East.
All right, but let's talk about
Okay, but
Vietnam.
no, it all ties together because at the end of the day, I was looking for justice, for honesty, for truth. And I did. I'm glad I went because I learned a lot. I wouldn't be the same man I am today if I hadn't seen all the betrayal and the deception that was going on in Vietnam. We kept saying in that whole war, from the beginning, we're winning this war, just like we're saying the Ukrainians are winning. This is us as fantasy time. That's why I'm glad I went, because I wouldn't have known that if I had sat here on the sidelines and believed our news media, who finally changed their voice on Vietnam. So Vietnam's just one case in point.
The next year, you directed Wall Street, including this iconic scene.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit.
Your father, Louis Stone,
Yeah.
was a stockbroker.
Yeah.
You dedicated the movie to him. What were you trying to say there in the movie and in the dedication?
At that time, it was heating up with all the young inside traders that were getting into trouble. So it was a great topic, and I saw corruption. I talked to many brokers, and I thought it was going to be over when the film was finished. I thought this era was over. It didn't, but it continued, and all of a sudden, the millions of dollars that Gecko was talking about in the picture became billions by the new century. And I was shocked when the 2007 thing happened. And that's why I did the other film, the Wall Street Money Never Sleeps. It was about that new era where millions become billions.
I have a confession to make right at the start.
Okay.
And that is that before I started preparing for this interview, I certainly knew about you. I knew about your standing in the industry. I knew about your huge studio in Atlanta, but I had never seen a Tyler Perry film. So
what are you apologizing for? You weren't the target. You weren't the target.
Well,
It's
I mean,
okay.
that's the question I'm going to ask you. The first question. Does it bother you at all that the movie audience is still so, I mean, I've thought about whether I was going to use this word or not. I'm going to, self-segregated.
I don't know if it's self-segregated as much as it is people like what they like. They want to see what they want to see, and they want to see what's familiar and what's comfortable or what's intriguing to them. And if the movies that I've made and the audiences that I've catered to for all these years, I was very specific in my targeting, so I'm not offended by that at all.
Well, good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm curious. I mean, I'm sure you've done studies.
Yeah.
What percentage of your audience is African American?
I haven't done studies that are official, but from the beginning of my career, when I started doing these live stage shows, it was 99% African American, just all over the country from end to end. So where I am now, I'm seeing that change quite a bit, but I couldn't tell you exactly specifics.
Since 2020, you've made 3 films for Netflix.
Right.
And I wonder, was part of that trying to get a broader reach, both racially and geographically?
I think most of it was just where the industry is going. I've had an incredible run with Lionsgate, but also for many years I've been told that movies with black people in them are black leads or black stars or black writers. There's no international audience for those films. So I've never had an opportunity to have a film that opened theatrically be released around the world. But having these movies open on Netflix and having them be #1 in several countries dispel that myth completely. So that's one of the reasons to be there. And the other side of it, they're just a great company to work with.
Your latest movie, which has just been released, is called A Jazzman's Blues. And I read a very surprising quote. You said it was the first movie that you've enjoyed directing.
Yeah.
Why?
Everything else has always felt like work. I've been very intentional in my positioning of myself as far as in the industry. I knew my audience would be there. I knew my audience would support me, and the Medeas and the Why Did I Get Married and all of the big, broader comedies. But this I held on so long because I was waiting for the right time. But what was most important to me is that that was always intentional, strategic. This was just love. I showed up on set every day. I wanted every shot to be as if you could frame it. I had a great DP, Brett Pollack, and Debbie Allen doing the choreography, and Terrence Blanchard doing the music. So every element, everything you touched, from the sets to the trees to the location, it all spoke to me. And it was more than what I ever imagined when I wrote it 27 years ago.
Before you did movies, you started writing, directing, and starring in plays, and that's where you created your signature character, Medea. And let's take a look at her.
You want to show it, Chris? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Why?
Okay,
What's the matter?
Well, that's fine. We'll watch it. Let's see. I don't know what you're going to play. We'll see it.
Well, I think
I'm going to look this way.
All right, folks, please, bear with me. He's not looking. Please look at, I don't know why you'd have a problem with it. Here is the Medea in a play.
Did you have to tear up her flowers?
Y'all act like she didn't owe me $20.
What is $20?
I was checking her bra and them flowers just started falling over. What the hell they put a bra on a dead woman for anyway? When I die, don't y'all put no, if you put a bra on me, I'm gonna come back and kill you. I ain't lying. I'll be the first ghost in history to bust a cap in somebody. I ain't lying.
I'm so curious at your reaction. He didn't look at it, folks. Why?
It's first of all, I've always been extremely uncomfortable in that suit and playing the character, but the audience loves it so much. I was going to do it for one little scene on stage, and the lead character didn't show up, so the character got bigger and bigger every night, and that's where it all started. So I love what it does for people, but the process to get it there and do it and all of that is a lot. So yeah.
Do you feel that way about movies as well as plays? About Medea?
Oh yeah.
Oh, so we're going to have a bad time here because I'm going to show a
lot of Medea.
Well, listen. Explain though. Who is Medea?
Medea is it's a southern term cross words of mother dear, but she is based on, which I love about my mother and my aunts. But my mother and aunt are the PG version. She's the PG version of them. Right?
Really?
Oh yeah.
Because she's not so PG.
Oh no, they're NC-17. But she is definitely pay homage to all of the black women in my life who helped form me, to help me become the man I am, to just really inform everything about my life. So she is somebody who would love you and take care of you, but punch you in the face if you said the wrong thing.
Well, that's Medea. And what is the Chitlin Circuit, and is it true that at one point, this is before movies, that you had 35,000 people a week going to see your plays on the Chitlin Circuit and sold $100 million in tickets?
Yeah. What the Chitlin Circuit is, and it's still around today, but it's not called that anymore, but it was very much a circuit where black performers could go and perform when they weren't allowed in white establishments doing Jim Crow. And what happens is black people would support their own and make them huge stars. I mean, you could look at Billie Holiday, and I can go down the list, Ray Charles, and all these people who toured, became super famous among their own people, and then eventually crossed over. So when I started doing plays, there was no segregation then, so I was playing in a lot of the same establishments that were once segregated. But it was to that predominantly black audience all through the South, packing these houses to the rafters from week to week, and that's where it all started for me. So when I got to Hollywood, I had tremendous success with all of this reinforcement from my audience. So I went in with a different sensibility.
I'm a little bit hesitant because I'm about to show another clip.
Okay, I'm with you. All right.
Okay, all right. I mean, this kind of...
Okay.
All right. In 2006, you turned that play into a film, Medea's Family Reunion, in which you played not only Medea, but also her brother, Joe. Let's take a look. Okay.
Now move, old man. Step aside.
That thing just push you, Joe?
Yeah, she did. She don't know us. We Baptists. We'll tear this church up.
Oh, you don't know me. I would set it off up in here. I'm telling you, I would do a drive-by in this church. You better be glad you're at church. Jesus just saved your life. Hallelujah. She don't know me at all. I'm a thug. I'm a real thug. I shot Tupac. I did the first time we was arguing over a parking spot. I ain't kill him, though. That wasn't me.
Well, you shake your head. I've watched this for the first time 3 weeks ago. I think it's brilliant.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm not denying that it's great and funny. I enjoy it, but again, I have to disassociate. That's actually me in that. Now, Old Man Joe, I'm fine with for some reason, but her is just, yeah.
Well, that's a little sexist, isn't it?
Well, listen.
Well, I got to say, for somebody who's a little embarrassed or uncomfortable with Medea, you've been playing her for 15, how many years?
2009, I think.
Okay.
But here's the thing. The audience won't let her go. Like, even the last time I did it, I said, I'm out, I'm not doing it anymore. And then the world goes upside down. We have a president and a new president. So I wanted to make people laugh. So I said, what do I have? Pull her out, put the movie on Netflix. It's #1 everywhere.
Yes,
I'm like,
it's great.
Okay, yeah. But the minute people stop coming to see her, that old broad is dead. She's dead, man. She's dead, for sure.
Oh,
for
my
sure.
Lord. That old broad, I feel, I mean, you're going to get slapped upside the head. I mean, you don't mess with Medea.
If she were real, yeah. But you know, people love it, and I understand that because I had, it was actually some of the girls at Oprah School were talking about the character in a way that I recognize, but I didn't fully get. It's like how informative it has been for them in their years of growing up without parents, without the social construct where they could get this kind of information. So I know the value of it. I really know the value of it.
All right, let's get this out of the way. You had to deal with this at some point. When Medea first came out, Spike Lee called it coonery buffoonery. And over the years, there have been a number of people who say that you're playing with negative stereotypes of black men and black women. How do you
Emasculating black man. I've heard it all, yeah.
How do you respond to that?
There's a certain part of our society, especially black people in the culture, that they look down on certain things within the culture. For me, I love the movies that I've done because they are the people that I grew up with, that I represent. And like my mother would take me into projects with her on the weekends. She'd play cards with these women. Most of them didn't have a 12th grade education, but their stories and how much they loved each other and how when they get sad about something, another one would come in and make a joke. I'm 5 years old on the floor with my Matchbox cards. I was in a master class for my life. So when someone says you're hearkening back to a point of our life that we don't want to talk about it, we don't want the world to see, you're dismissing the stories of millions and millions of black people. And that's why I think it's been so successful, because it resonates with a lot of us who know these women and these experiences and Uncle Joe and so on and so forth. But it also goes back to the Harlem Renaissance and Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston. Langston Hughes said that Zora Neale Hurston was a new version of the darky. Langston was Northern, very sophisticated. Zora Neale from the South. Her character spoke in a Southern dialect. So this is a conversation that's been going on long before Spike Lee and Tyler Perry. It is what it is. But what is important to me is that I'm honoring the people that came up and taught and made me who I am.
Let's take a trip through your movies. The first one you direct is Reservoir Dogs in 1992, and you announce your arrival on the scene with this particular moment.
Well, I don't know why I came here tonight. I got the feeling that something ain't right. I'm so scared in case I fall off my chair. And I'm wondering how I'll get down the stairs. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you.
That's Mr. Blonde torturing a cop.
Yes, you cut it just before it got good.
or would have closed this studio down. How did you come up with this idea of highly stylized violence?
No one's ever asked it to me like that before. I got to think of the right way to answer that. I think, I guess, I hadn't thought about it before quite like that, but I guess the answer is, after going to see a ton of movies, there's all kinds of scenes that I respond to in movies. I respond to music sequences. I respond to big comedy sequences. It was like they galvanized the entire theater. Everybody woke up. Everybody got connected. And I would go see a film that had a sequence like that. I would see it 2 or 3 times at the theaters just to see that sequence, and then just to have that experience with an audience. So. Again, we're talking about, you're calling it violence. It is violence. It's also action. I think it's also kind of what movies do in a way that's particular to them, as opposed to theater or literature, is, the filming of kinetic violence that can usually, that can have different reasons for the impact, but it can oftentimes give a cathartic release for an audience.
2 years later, you make Pulp Fiction, and there we see something else that makes you unique, which is dialogue you won't find anyplace else.
Yeah.
What does Marcellus Wallace look like? What? What country you from? What? What ain't no country I ever heard of? They speak English and what? What? English, motherfucker! Do you speak it? Yes. Then you know what I'm saying. Yes. Describe what Marcellus Wallace looks like. What? Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker. Say what one more goddamn time.
You won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. What is the secret to Tarantino dialogue?
How I do it is pretty simple. I just get the characters talking to each other. So it's like me, the writer, is writing it, and yeah, I'm kind of controlling it for a while, but the idea is the conversation catches fire amongst the characters, and then they take it and run with it, and then I'm almost like a court reporter, jotting it all down, and then usually whatever comes out is what comes out. Now, inside of that, there is a rhythm to it, there is a musicality to it. There is a bit of rhyme that happens between some of the words and some of the phrases. And so, you know, it's not poetry, but it's not completely divorced from poetry. It's not rap, but it's not completely divorced from it. It's not a stand-up comedy act, but it's not completely divorced from that either.
I want to show one other scene for no other reason than it's just so cool from Pulp Fiction.
Great.
John Travolta, Uma Thurman.
Oh, okay.
Here they are.
They had a high-fi phone, oh boy, did they let it blast. 700 little records, all rock, rhythm, and jazz. But when the sun went down, the rapid tempo of the music fell. C'est la vie, say the old folks. It goes to show you never can tell.
How'd that come about?
Everyone knows that I kind of was bringing John Travolta back from, I think, Look Who's Talking 3, when he did the movie, and it set him up for a whole second act of his career, in a really third act of his career, for a really lovely way. But at the time, you know, audiences would go see the film. They didn't quite know everything yet, so they're feeling, oh, John Travolta's in this. Oh, I haven't seen him in a while, so he's in the movie, and he's playing a gangster, and it's all going along, and it's funny, and it's this. Then they go to Jackrabbit Slims, and everything's interesting, and it's a funny dialogue back and forth. This is all interesting, and they go, okay, and now it's time for this twist contest. And Uma Thurman goes, okay, right here. And then they go up there, and then he takes off his shoes. And then all of a sudden, all throughout the audience of a packed theater, and this happened for a few weeks when the movie was first opened, you had this little realization like, oh my God, he's gonna dance. He's actually gonna dance. And then John Travolta, one of the biggest dance stars of the last 30 years, in a movie you did not expect that to happen, goes out there and cuts a rug and brings the house down.
So let's jump ahead. 2009, your World War II movie, Inglourious Bastards. And here's a scene where Aldo Raine, who's the head of the American commando unit, the Bastards, has a surprisingly civil conversation with SS officer Hans Landa.
Yes.
So you're Aldo the Apache.
So you're the Jew hunter.
I'm a detective. A damn good detective. Finding people is my specialty, so naturally I worked for the Nazis finding people, and yes, some of them were Jews, but Jew hunter? Just a name that stuck.
Well, you do have to admit, it is catchy.
So often in your movies, instead of realism, you go for the way we wish life would be, don't you?
Well, sometimes, yeah. And, well, starting with that one particularly, all right, where I kind of consider Bastards the first part of my rewriting history trilogy with that, Django, and then Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But, you know, the way that ended up coming about is I didn't start the movie with the idea, oh, and this will be the movie that I kill Hitler. That will be the whole thing, and I'll re-engineer everything so that happens. I never have a super clue about I have a clue. Take that back. I have a clue, but I never know 100% how the movie is going to end when I start writing it. I don't do a whole synopsis about the whole thing. Now, they're genre movies. So I have an idea. I figured at the end of Bastards, or the guys would go on a mission. I figure at the end of Kill Bill, she's going to kill Bill. But how she kills Bill is to be determined. So the thing about it is, I'm writing the script, and now all of a sudden the Bastards are in the theater, and the whole idea is to blow up the theater and kill Hitler. And I go, hey, this is actually kind of working out. I thought there would be more problems to the mission. This could actually work. Well, what do I do now? And I didn't want it to have an ending like The Eagle Has Landed, where, oh, okay, they kill Churchill, but it's a double. So I'm going to have Hitler sneak out the back door, all right, just before the theater bursts into flames. And I go, oh my God, I've just written myself into a corner. What do I do? And it's like 4 in the morning or 3 in the morning or something like that. And I go, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then I just had the idea. And so I just took a piece of paper and I wrote, just effing kill him. And then, okay, let me put that piece, I don't know if that's a good idea or a bad idea. Let me just put the piece of paper on my bedside table and let me go to bed. Right. When I wake up the next morning, I'll look at it and I'll know more if this is a good idea or a bad idea. And when I woke up the next morning, I thought it was a good idea.
Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to CNN's YouTube channel so you never miss the best of my conversations. And you can catch the full interviews of Who's Talking streaming right now on Max.